President Trump says he's ordered the deployment of 2 U.S. nuclear submarines to the appropriate regions in response to threats from the former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. Both men have been taunting each other of late after the White House this
week that Russia had 10 days to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face tough sanctions. In response, Mr. Medvedev reminded the U.S. that Russia possesses nuclear strike capabilities. It's unclear exactly where Mr. Trump has ordered the submarines to be deployed. We'll have reaction from Moscow in a moment with Steve Rosenberg. But first, here's our top story from Washington with Gary Oat on AUQ. In recent days, Donald Trump's rhetoric on Russia has intensified. Greater than Russia. I think it's disgusting what they're doing, he said. But now rhetoric has turned into action with the deployment of 2 nuclear submarines. Though Trump did not specify whether these are capable of carrying nuclear warheads. He was responding to comments from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who accused the U.S. president of playing an ultimatum game over threats to impose fresh sanctions on Russia next week if a ceasefire in Ukraine isn't reached. Medvedev said each new ultimatum is a threat and a step toward war, not just between Russia and Ukraine, but potentially involving the U.S. itself. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said he was deploying the submarines just in case these foolish and inflammatory statements are more than just that. Words are very important and can often lead to unintended consequences. I hope this will not be one of those instances, he added. The 2 men last met in 2017 at a summit in Asia. At that time, President Medvedev called Donald Trump open and well-meaning. While Medvedev still holds a role in Russia's National Security Council, he is not considered a direct mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin, although he often makes provocative statements. Today, President Putin, pictured here with his Belarusian counterpart, took a more measured tone, saying that disappointments only come from excessive expectations. The U.S. has more than a dozen submarines capable of carrying nuclear warheads. These form part of the so-called nuclear triad, land, air, and sea deterrence, with submarines being the most undetectable component of America's strategic nuclear force. Donald Trump's latest deadline for Russia expires at the end of next week. He has already said he doesn't expect new sanctions to change Vladimir Putin's behavior. We'll return to Steve in Moscow shortly, but first back to you, Gary, in Washington. Gary, this does seem frankly extraordinary, the deployment of nuclear submarines. Clive: it is extraordinary, Clive. I mean, it's not clear whether these are nuclear-armed submarines or simply nuclear-powered ones. It's worth clarifying that, and we still don't know where exactly they've been sent. Just yesterday, the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor both downplayed comments made by President Medvedev, calling him irrelevant, not a key decision-maker in Russia. And yet today, we have the U.S. president deploying a pair of submarines, seemingly in response to Medvedev's remarks. So it's still unclear just how seriously this should be taken. We're always told to judge a leader not just by their words, but by their actions, and in this case, these are actions. In the past few minutes, President Trump said that a threat was made, it wasn't appropriate, and that he had to protect our people. This certainly marks a significant escalation, though whether it leads to anything beyond strong words remains to be seen. There will be a crunch point at the end of next week, when the deadline for the Ukraine ceasefire expires, and additional sanctions could be imposed on Russia, and potentially its major trading partners like India and China. That deadline now carries even greater weight. Steve, in Moscow. Yes, Clive. Mr. Medvedev, the former Russian president and prime minister, now deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, has indeed been one of the most outspoken critics of the West since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Interestingly, there's been no official reaction so far from the Kremlin, the Foreign Ministry, or the Defense Ministry. No one, really. I think everyone's still trying to figure out exactly what's going on, and whether the positioning of U.S. nuclear submarines has changed anything significant. However, there has been a reaction from the Moscow Stock Exchange, which has fallen sharply. Judging by the reaction in the local media, Russians are, to say the least, surprised by President Trump's post. And I suspect no one is more surprised than Dmitry Medvedev himself. For more than 3 years now, he's been posting bombastic and provocative statements on social media, most of which have gone largely unnoticed. But suddenly, this one seems to have struck a nerve, getting under the skin of the U.S. president in a very big way. Meanwhile, amid all this tension, we expect Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, to arrive in Russia, possibly to meet Vladimir Putin. One prominent Russian news outlet described Witkoff as a rabbit pulled from a magician's hat, the magician being Donald Trump. But whether Witkoff can magically diffuse the current tensions is, frankly, a big Clive : indeed. All right, Steve, thank you for that. Steve Rosenberg live from Moscow. And thanks also to Gary O'Donoghue in Washington.